I had received a text who said, hey, Mark, I'm crying so hard. I had to leave work. I'm so devastated over Charlie's death. Why would God let this happen? I don't understand. Please help me to understand. He was doing such a good kingdom work and he was making such an impact. Why? I don't understand. And I think that her question resonates with so many people. 31 years old. I said, listen, when we come across something we don't understand, we always have to fall back on that which we do understand. We understand that God is not pacing back and forth right now. Right? There's no sweat on God's brow. He's not worried. He's good. He's glorious. All of our days were written before there was one of them. And though we were caught off guard, God was not caught off guard. Yeah. It would do us well, instead of raising our fists to God, we would raise holy hands to God. Mm-hmm. And we would echo the words of Job. Though he slay me, yet I will trust in him. Yeah. It was a life that was spent well. I've often said to my kids, I don't want you to live necessarily a long life, but a well life. Mm. So many people have died at young ages. Think of like David Brainerd dying at the age of 29, and so many others. Yeah. Missionaries dying really young. And we want to go, why? And we say, well, because they walked in the work which God prepared beforehand. That's quite and simply that this is the scriptural answer, right? That there was a work for them to do, and they walked in that work, and God then took those people home, and in this case, took Charlie home. Right? God was not busy handling the orbit of planets, and then he was caught off guard, and he said, oh no, we forgot about Charlie. God is sovereign. So what does this do, and what should this do? Well, what this should do is this should stamp eternity on our eyelids. Because there's a lot of video of Charlie. He's throwing hats out to the crowd. He's smiling. He's taking pictures with people. He's living his life. And now he's before the presence of God because his race is over, and he's worshiping at the feet of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And as difficult as it is for us to try to navigate through what just took place and try to make sense and put together, God knows. Yeah. And if we can throw those two words together and have it be enough for us that God knows, and knowing the character of God and the attribute of God and all that he's doing, and that he's working all things together for our good and for his glory, then it is enough to know that God doesn't need our wisdom. He doesn't need counsel. If God needed counsel, you would not know about it. But he was due to speak here. No. God's not worried about that. And so that baton has been handed off. And let me say this, young generation, you guys that are out there, let me say, grab a hold of that baton and run with it. That's good. And not just politically, but with a Christ-centric message, putting Christ at the center of all that we do. And whatever you do all to the glory of God. And I remember when I met him for the first time, and I handed him Ray's book, God Has a Wonderful Plan for Your Life. And he asked me, he said, are you the author? And I said, no. I'm not an author. I go, we have some similar friends, and I started naming them off, and he goes, oh, wow, neat. And then I saw him about 5 minutes later, and then he sent me a DM through Twitter or X, gave me his phone number, he asked me to call him, and then he went on his podcast, and he was talking about the book, God Has a Wonderful Plan for Your Life, and he commended it through the moon. Yeah. I stand in awe, because I know that even in the midst of this, God does all things well. Amen. Confusion, sure. Doubt about God? No. There's no worry, with me. There's no second guessing if God is on his throne. We've walked with God for too long, for that. We know that God is on his throne. Where do I go from here? The saying, do the next thing. What is that next thing? Do what God has called you to do, and you'll be walking in the work which God has prepared beforehand. And we can never forget that we are God's poetry. We are his poem. We are his poema. That we are the expression of his heart as his child, if you're a Christian. The truth is that some of our numbers could be up tonight. We don't know. Charlie was planning for tomorrow. You look at his schedule, he had a full schedule. And guess what? He fulfilled his full schedule. So a man plans his ways, the Lord directs his steps, but let it be known that God ordained all of our days before there was one of them. And right now we gather as a family. We put our hands on each other's shoulders. We wrap our arms around each other. We hold each other a little bit tighter, and we march forward on our knees, because this isn't a playground, it's a battleground. Bearing one another's burdens and being there and fulfilling the law of Christ.
This video is part of the Living Waters podcast. To watch full episodes and explore more content that equips you in your faith, visit livingwaters.tv. You can listen to the full episode titled on the screen for free on all major podcast platforms.